All righty. So welcome everyone. As I say, I'm filling in for Julie tonight as she is traveling. So we appreciate everybody joining us. I know it's a busy time of year with the holidays and everything. So hopefully this is going to be a fun night for everyone. Um, it's it's a large category, things with lids. Before we get into that, let me ask David. David, do you want to say anything beforehand, or do you want to wait until afterwards?
Uh, why don't I just go ahead and I'll talk at the end. That'll be fine, Jack.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so the program tonight is things with lids. Again, it's a huge category. And as we talked about it at the last Zoom and Tell, one of the things we wanted to exclude from that is candy dishes. So, because that is going to be a future program down the road. Um, so what I'm going to do, because it's such a large category, I'm going to just maybe give you a little background on what that means, on what Cambridge did and show some things that kind of do the variety of spectrum, and then we'll just get in because we're not going to do any formal program on this or anything. But I'm going to throw out some numbers and some facts for you to give you an idea of what this means for Cambridge. I went through all the catalogs and everything, and I found that there are 47 different items Cambridge made with lids. That does not include anything from the barware catalogs, from the pharmaceutical catalogs, from the kitchenware catalogs. That's 47 items, different items, just from their normal traditional catalogs. Some things were more prevalent than others. Just to give you kind of some of the more common ones with lids, probably the most common that was from the very beginning all the way in 1903 all the way up through the end of the company was the covered butter. That was in every catalog, in variety of the lines and everything. So that was the most common piece. Right up next to it was the candy jar, of course, but that was more and more prevalent because there were many more different types of things. Um, and also right in there is very prevalent were cigarette boxes, Mike. Um, and also mustard and marmalades were very common all the way through. Honey dish, puff box, and covered sugar, covered cheese were also right in those mixes. So, of course, there are a lot of other ones, but those were, one of the most prevalent different items that we had. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share screen, and I think I can do this right. Let's see here. Um, Go this one, and then I'm actually going to go all the way back to the beginning, if I can. Okay, get that out of there. Okay. I'm going to do the Les Hansen method and kind of start at the very beginning, kind of chronologically. And this is in the near cut line. Um, Everybody see that okay? Hopefully you can. Somebody wanted, David, you nod your head. Can you see that okay? Okay, good. Uh, this is a near cut daisy, covered butter. This one is, red flashed with gold trim. This was, back in the early 1900s, around 1915 to be, around that time period. Near cut daisy is one that you sometimes will refer to as archfoot daisy, but a lot of the pieces came both archfoot and non-archfoot. Many pieces that are near cut daisy also did not have archfoot at all. So, but that's one of those. So that's the covered butter. Here's the covered sugar. and lid, also near cut daisy with gold and red flash on it. And here is a mustard or horseradish jar. They called it both ways. And the lid has a little slot in it for the spoon. Here's a neat thing that's kind of interesting, and I'm not really sure about this, but the Gothic line, which is I think a very interesting line. A lot of pieces that then they had this kind of zigzag Art Deco-ish look on it. But this was a tall crushed fruit jar. And there were a number of items that they called crushed fruit jars. And I don't know why that is. Somebody here maybe can enlighten me on that a little bit, but that was a popular item. And in really not from the 1903 on up through about 1920, and then it just disappeared. They didn't have those things anymore. So I'm not sure what that was all about, but it's a pretty neat piece. As we get into I got a few things from the pharmaceutical line. And by the way, these next pictures from them are courtesy of Christine Smith. She was nice enough to let me photograph some of these pieces in her collection. So this is a benzene cup and cover. And this was actually used, this is both in the pharmaceutical catalog and other catalogs. Benzene, of course, is kind of a solvent cleaning thing. It's actually a pretty nasty chemical from an environmental standpoint, but watchmakers and jewelers used to use this to, they'd clean parts and stuff, put them in there. So that's kind of a neat piece. Here's another piece from that line also. This box that has a lid to it has little slots. I think hopefully you can see that, where you put like microscope slides or whatever, specimen slides in, and they would sit upright in it. What's also interesting, if anybody has been to the museum and been observant, maybe that Cindy has these in part of the etching process display that she has back in the education room. When the company sent out those process bowls with, they would be in different phases of it with the beeswax and the black on the covering on a thing. They sent wax out and ink out in this jar for display purposes. So just interesting. And she's got some of those back in the back room. So. Here, the last thing from this period is the measuring jug. And this must have been a very popular thing, because I found this in 4 different catalogs. It was in the kitchen catalog, in the regular catalog, in the pharmaceutical catalog, and then it was in a specialty catalog as well. So most of the time, this thing, and you can see it's graduated on the side, and then the top, the lid, actually serves as a funnel. And this particular one has the rare top on it that's kind of like almost like a shaker, a salt shaker. It's got little holes in it and it screws on. Most of the time you don't find those on that. That's very difficult to find with that. So okay, we're getting into the 20s now. This is our first example of jug and cover. This one's, of course, Rabina, and it has sterling silver on it, Dilcor. And then we have its little cousin or whatever. This is the smaller little, I think it's 20 ounce, but it looks just like it, but a little smaller, that they used on the boudoir set. This is amber, has a cutting on it. And what makes this a little extra special to me is that it has gold trim on it. And it's very unusual to find cut pieces also with gold on it. So. Here's actual covered urn, which shows up in a number of lines later on too, but this is in the 1920s version, the 507, and this is a light emerald one with a cutting. And then a puff box, peach blow with a cutting. and a cigarette box. And this has, this is light emerald, of course, when this has an intaglio hunt scene on it, and that's what it looks like, the top of the cover. And Les informed us, I think, in an earlier conversation here that that is a deep etch, I think, right, Les? I always thought that was a kind of a cut thing, but that is a deep etch that Cambridge did on that.
Yeah, it's a deep etch. And then, however, the dog cigarette boxes, they did some additional cutting on it after the acid etch. So
Ah,
there can be
okay.
cutting as well, but yeah, it's just a very deep acid etch.
Okay, thank you. Here is a puff box with the set with the colognes, and this is in night blue with a sterling silver overlay on it. And for those of you who don't know or have sometimes or wonder how you tell the difference between Aurora and night blue, which are the two blues in the 1925 range that came out there for short periods of time. Aurora is the one that really fluoresces under a black light. Night blue will just slightly, but you can really tell the difference between them by doing that. So, also, this is a Weatherford piece. Now, what's kind of unusual about this? The piece isn't unusual in itself, but what's unusual, normally when Cambridge put a lid on a comport, they call it a candy dish, and they're just probably 90% of what they did through that. That is what they did. They put a lid on a comport and call it a candy dish. But this particular piece, they actually called it a covered comport. So that's just a little unusual in the naming thing. But this one is peach blow, and it has the engraving 39 on it, which is the vertical lines, which is done predominantly on the Weatherford line, although you can find it on other pieces as well. Here's a covered butter, and with the drainer, which is unusual, not necessarily to find the covered butter. You can find this in the early transparent colors, but what is hard is to find the drainer, and that's what it looks like outside, because those things were really easy to chip and break. They would stick to the bottom of the butter chunk and then fall off, and then they get discarded. So it's rare to find that drainer. Another piece that is a favorite in our collection is the Santa shaving service, and this one is in peach blow and also has a cutting on it. And this is what it looks like with the lid off. So you can see it has the different slots for razor blades, septic stick. I forgot. I don't know what all goes in there, but different things. So that's a nice piece. And also this lid has for those of you who've not seen this, it has a hole in the top. In that lid, there's a hole that goes all the way down through the lid. So I guess so things that are in there could dry out and air out when you put the lid on. So. Here's something everybody's probably familiar with, the compact and cover. And this particular one is Bluebell. And I always thought it was neat when they did this with a number of colors. They would satinize the lid and then cut the lid, which really is a neat effect on that. So, honey jar and cover. It's our first one to see of those. There are a number of different lines that had a honey jar in it. And this is one, and this is also cut as well. And our cheese dish, same thing. Again, these are all 1920s versions. And this is also has a nice cutting on it in peach blow. Okay, we're going to get into the 30s and beyond. And one of my favorite topics when it comes to lids is the tally-ho line. And anytime you get a tally-ho piece with a lid on it, you've got a special piece, whether it's, whatever color it is, what size it is. And for those of you who want to learn more about that or kind of study it a little further, I did an article in September 2013 Crystal Ball, which will cover all the info about that. But This is a really special piece. There's probably, I think, only a few etched lids, and for whatever reason, they're all Elaine that we know of. But you can find this cookie jar in different colors and etc., and different decorations, etc. And this one, of course, is etched lid. And by the way, all it is the ice bucket with a lid on it. It's exactly what the bottom is. It's the ice bucket. They didn't change it. They just stuck the lid on it. So here's another pretty special tally-ho piece with a lid on it. Now it says candy, but I have candy box on here, but that is strictly my conjecture because we don't know what it is. There's no catalog image of it. Dave Rankin did a marvelous job just to figure out what the number on it, well, this was, the 1402-109. And this is gold encrusted Elaine. So it could be a covered bowl, could be a covered dish or some sort. I haven't labeled the candy box, so I'm cheating here, right? Because that may be what it is. I don't know. And the last tally-ho piece, this one, back to this one, you see this, they just took the footed mayo bowl and took the divider, didn't put the divider in and put the lid on it. This one is the non-footed mayo bowl that still has a divider, and then they just put the lid on that. So again, these are all just, I would call them very hard to find, if not rare pieces. So, but you can find these in the different color, amber. I've seen it in amber and other colors too as well. So here's the 3400 covered butter in gold crystal with a nice cutting on it. And I have to show this because Cambridge used lids, the same lid for a number of different things. They would put it on different pieces. They would shape it differently and everything. So this is something else they did with the lid. Now, this lid looks exactly the same as this lid, but it's not. This lid actually came off the covered candy dish. It's a little bigger. It's a little different shape. But I wanted to just use it for example, because they turned it into a lemon tray. But that is the lid. And they just, again, they got creative, and marketing probably said, hey, let's smush this up and we can, market it as a lemon tray. But it's not something you see very often. 3400 marmalade jar with a spoon, which basically, they took the puff thing and they put a slot in the side of the lid, and now it's a marmalade. So talking about the statuesque line, there are 3 different items with lids in the statuesque line. Here's the covered sweetmeat. Here's the cigarette box. This is the tall cigarette box in forest green with a satin stem on it. And they offered almost everything in the 30s with the satin stem, crystal foot. Later on, when in the late 40s into the 50s, if it was satinized, it was both stem and foot. And Martha Washington line, here's a 10-inch covered urn in forest green. And one of my favorite pieces of Elaine in the collection is the covered relish. And what they did here again is they took, and I don't remember the number, but it's the tray. It's the 4-part celery relish tray, and this is in the Gadroon 3500 line. And they put a very expensive lid on it because the tray you can find, it's not difficult, but the lids are extremely rare. So that's a neat piece. Here's the Gadroon, the honey dish, covered honey. You can find this in different colors, different etches, etc. Again. And here's something, normally, we talked about that they took a Tom Port, they put a lid on it and made it a candy dish. Well, this is something that I thought was just funny that, or ironic, they did just the opposite, because what sits in the center is a candy dish, but they put it on a plate and they call it a cheese and cracker. So that means it's no longer a candy dish. So I said, well, this maybe will fit. We can put that in there. So And we're getting down to here, the last few I wanted to show. This is the 3500 covered urn, gold encrusted Elaine. And this came in two sizes, of course, a 10-inch and a 12-inch. They decorated it, came in colors, gold encrusted, gold stippled, platinum, etc. So a lot of different ways they did that piece. Neat. Also wanted to show this because I guess this was a lid. You know, the different syrups. There were a number of syrups that Cambridge did throughout their time, and this was one that had the I don't know if that was you know, with that chrome, I guess, chrome top on it, and this one is cut Lucia. And here's a cigarette box, gold encrusted Elaine too, that was in that time period. And here is a covered cheese. And by the way, on these covered cheese, when we first got this, you notice the bottom is not etched. And we were wondering if that was maybe a marriage or what happened. And apparently, according to Lynn Welker and everybody else we talked to, they never did etch the bottom. So if you find that, all the ones that have been seen, they only etched or decorated the lid. And the covered butter dish, the 506. And I think the last one we've got here is a marmalade. And this one is has a sterling silver Sheffield cover on it. And also etched Elaine's got the spoon. So. And that's what I have. So I'm going to stop my screen share. So that kind of gives you an idea of just a kind of a little variety of what Cambridge did with lids. And again, there's just so much. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of neat different things tonight. I don't know if anybody, before we go on, does anybody have any questions? Any comments or anything?
Yeah, Jack, I had just a quick one. On the Bluebell covered compact that you showed.
Oh, yes.
I know we talked about when you did the program in November, like on Lucia, they would cut the main pattern, dip it in acid, and then come back later and cut the flowers so that the original cutting was polished out using the acid, and then the flowers were left satin after the fact. Where that covered compact, it kind of had to be done the opposite, I think. It had to be acid finished first to satinize it, and then they came back and cut the floral pattern, but they must have had a way to buff that out to get the leafy pattern, because it's in your picture, the leaves are polished. So they must have also had a wheel that would buff out the satin finish from cutting.
Yeah, we've talked about that, and that's one way that could have happened. I don't know that I've ever gotten a definitive response from anybody yet on that after we've had that conversation, because somebody also had the conjecture that when you dipped it, let's say you cut it first, but then dip the whole thing in it. If you left it in a certain time, not only would that polish the cutting, it would also satin the rest of the piece all at the same time. I don't know if that's possible or not, but that was what was at the cuttings program, you know, that we did. That's what somebody else had come up with. So I tend to believe your possibility that they buffed that cutting out after it was satinized to be able to get that polish. So I think that's probably, but don't know. So
that's how the original cut glass was done, was with it was all satin. They didn't have the luxury of the acid, the old cut glass. They had to use wooden wheels to buff out the cut.
Yeah.
Jack and David, so it was Lynn and I visited about that after your program, Jack and Mike, and it's two different types of acid solutions that were used for the satin finish versus polishing a cutting. And I can't remember all that right now off the top of my head, but I think it was a single acid that was used for the polishing of the cutting and a combination of two acids that were used for the satin finish. So I don't think we know what they did, if it was dipped a second time or if it was buffed.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else have any questions or anything?
I do, Jack. On that covered 4-part relish, is that just a standard cover that would fit the 4-part relish, or is the tray a little bit different to accept the lid?
No, it's a standard tray.
Okay.
They're in tray. I have like 2 or 3 other trays, like one is gold encrusted, one is gold stippled, and different things. The lid fits perfectly on all that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll get started with the show and tell. And if I don't have your name and you want to show glass, you can message me or just let me know, and we can start from here. So how about if Jeff? How about if you want to start out, and we'll put David Ray on deck.
Sounds good. Okay. The first one I got, let's see if I can make this work, is the cigarette box in Crown Tuscan with some gold decoration and some flowers on it, or a flower anyway. And the covered butter dish that you showed. It's really cool. I really like that piece. Thank you. And this covered butter dish, which actually arrived with a great big chunk out of it, but it still looks good sitting in the cabinet. And then one of my favorite pieces is the 10-inch urn covered in the lane etching, of course. And this I actually purchased right after my mom passed away. So that was kind of cool. It came at just the right time. And another one, you're probably going to say, okay, that's not Cambridge, but it's Jeff is what it is. Handmade by me, of course. And I made this for my mom for Christmas one day. And inside, I put a celery. So I just had to show that, because I know it's lidded things, but it's not exactly what you're thinking. But it was kind of cool. Mom really liked it. So, but that's all I got. Till next time. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate that, Jeff. That first one, by the way, I think that had Charlton decoration on it. Is on your Crown Tuscan cigarette box. So it's nice to see some more Elaine pieces. That was nice. So, okay, David, you're up, and we'll put. How about if we put Gwinnell on deck?
Well, thank you, Jack. I want to kind of do the same thing you did, go in order as far as when something was produced. The first item I'm going to show is the Primrose Pomade. This is part of a kind of a dresser set, comes with a tray. And I'm not sure exactly what pomade is, but it would go in there. It's some kind of a beautifying thing that ladies use. And then to go with that is the puff box. This would also go on the tray. And a puff box would probably have powder in it and kind of a puff in there to disperse that. An item that I purchased several years ago that I just think the shape of it is just so cool is this covered humidor. I'm going to call it a humidor, and it's pretty early. This has the Clio etching on it. It's got the nice star pattern in the bottom. I just think with the lid on it, the lid is not etched. The lid did not come etched. It's just such a great piece. And this was not the first one of these I purchased. The first one I actually purchased at our glass dash from Tarzan. And this is an ebony one. Same exact design, the star pattern on the bottom, the same cool lid. And I just thought that was just such a cool shape for an item. Just a really neat piece. Also from those 20s years is a cigarette box, and I've shown this before. I never get tired of showing my Yale large cigarette box, but it's just a great item, and it's the larger of the two sizes. And since Kenny's on here tonight, I know he'll appreciate this. I dug this out of the cabinet. I'm not sure what actually went in the covered turkey, but it could have been a cranberry sauce of some kind. I guess when I started looking at these, even though the word candy is not associated with them, you could certainly put candy in these. But this is a turkey that I once owned and then sold it to a great friend, and was fortunate enough to get it back into the harem of turkeys. So I'll thank Jim Finley for getting me hooked on turkeys, and this is just a great piece that I was able to get from Jim. You had a pretzel jar or cracker jar in Elaine. I got this many years ago out of New York. This is just a standard 3400 globe base. And you were talking about tally-ho lids. This is the tally-ho lid. And when they put it on here, I think they had a couple names, but pretzel jar was one of them. And strangely enough, the person that decorated this, which may not be Cambridge, likely is not Cambridge, put a pretzel on it. So they must have known that this was a pretzel jar. I can just imagine this sitting in a bar somewhere with some pretzels in it, and people coming in and getting a beer or two and grabbing some pretzels out of here. It's got some great bar scenes on the outside. So this is just really cool. And I've seen one other, and it was on eBay many years ago, and they actually had some enamel on all four sections of the lid in between the 3400 or tally-ho spears. They had like a jug or a person or just some little small enamel decoration. I don't know where that particular temple jar landed. In the caprice pattern, I've got a couple items this evening. I've got the stick butter, and that comes with a lid. They did not make the butter dish that I know of in Moonlight, although some art glass did reproduce it, but it would have a little nipple of glass right there in the center. So be wary of that little nipple of glass there. It just means it was reissued by Summit. It looks great in your case, though. Also in Caprice, they made a puff box. This is an undocumented piece, but I have a strong suspicion that Cambridge made this most likely for another company. It always has to have the alpine finish right here around the edge. There's a look-alike out there somewhere that does not have the alpine finish. So if it has the alpine finish, it probably is Cambridge, because this pattern is identical to other Caprice pieces, but there is no official number to it. Jack showed a marmalade. This is the bulbous marmalade in Caprice. It does have this lid. This is a standard lid. The lids are always crystal. That was a question on Facebook recently, if they made the lids in Moonlight. And this has the alpine treatment. And on the blown items, Cambridge did the alpine treatment slightly different than it did on the molded pieces. I've seen the marmalade, the straight-sided marmalade, the straight-sided mustard, and this blown marmalade, and they just put a little band of satin finish instead of highlighting the swirl pattern, and they did that on the blown pieces. I'm not exactly sure why, but it was certainly a little bit easier to do that, but really cool to see that. And my final piece is also from the Caprice line. This is what they called the cracker jar. Unlike the cracker jar in Elaine, the bottom is not the ice bucket. It's made from the ice bucket, but this had to be tooled just a little bit to open that up to fit the standard candy lid. So this is just a normal lid. Don't get excited about the lid. It's the bottom you have to have. And of course, the cracker jar came with a silver plated handle, and it had to be a little bit bigger than the standard ice bucket handle, so it would go up over the finial, and you could carry it something like this. I don't know if anyone would dare do that, but it does look very nice, and it does polish nicely. So, Jack, those are the items I have with lids this evening.
Oh, great. Thank you, David. Wow. That's those are really I'd forgotten about some of those when I was going through, particularly the when you started out with those primrose bath items. Those are really cool. So thank you for showing all those. In fact, I remember the that cracker jar you showed with the enamel decorated, because I think that was in my article. We included a picture of that in that 2013 article on with the lids. So thank you on that. Okay, so we're gonna have next we're gonna have Gwinnell, and then how about if we put Barbara on deck?
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to show a sugar. It's got the squared handle on it. You see that? It looks a lot like one of the dishes, the honey pot, or one that you had.
Mhm.
And then another sugar. And then the night jug. And these lids are interchangeable. So they use the lids on multiple items. And then shifting to Caprice. Got the regular blue in the ball shape.
Gwinnell, if you could just hold it back just a little bit away from the camera so we could see the whole thing.
That do? And then also the cylinder one. And again, the lids are interchangeable. Along that same line are the mustard. There's the blue. And then the crystal alpine. And again, it is alpine just around the lid. I mean, around the rim and the lid. And different with these, or the lids are different. One has the notch, one does not. One other mustard. It's got the pyramid lid, the step lid with the pointed top on it. And last, the cracker jar with the handle in the moonlight. I didn't grab all the others, they're just a few. But that's what I brought to share tonight.
That's awesome. Thank you. Did they, just curious, did they do the moonlight one in Alpine too as well? The cracker jar?
I think so. If I remember right, they did. I just have not found one yet. It's on a looking for list.
I would thought it also was interesting. I'm not as up on Caprice as you guys
Jack,
are.
I have
Yeah.
one.
Ah,
Yeah, I have one right here. That's Moonlight
All right.
Blue Caprice.
Thought so.
Here it is.
Beautiful.
All right, Kenny's getting in his show and tell a little early. Uh-huh.
Just that one.
Yeah. The other thing I was commenting, Gwinnell, is I was interested that one you had the little different lid. You call it the pyramid or step lid.
Yeah, it's kind of a triangular.
Is that something they used on a number of different pieces or just
I've
that
only
one?
seen it on the mustard. I have not seen it on anything else. But there is one that's in the catalog, but I can't tell in the catalog whether it has all the ridges that are on it. But it fits all the other mustards. It's kind of an interest, or at least the other small mustards.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I was not aware of
You
that.
can put it in the blue and it fits just fine. It fits just as snug as the other does.
Yeah, Gwinnell,
Uh-huh.
I'm interested, does the pyramid lid to the little mustard have the cutout for the spoon?
It does have a cutout.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Gwinnell. So next we're going to, who did I say was next?
Barbara.
Is that Barbara? Yep. And then, how about if we put Les on deck then?
I only have one piece because one was the Crown Tuscan a cigarette case, which is already shown, and the other one is a powder jar. I mean, not a powder jar, a candy dish. And then the other piece, I had an emergency here, and I had to fly to Florida, and most of my stuff is home in New York. This is where I have my Crown Tuscan. So the only other piece I have is this piece that has a cover. Is this a candy? I don't know what it is, frankly. I've got two of them. It has a cover like this. And is it a candy dish? I have no idea what it is.
I think so. Did anybody weigh in on that?
It is.
Mike's the seashell collector. He should know.
I have two of them.
It's really a nice piece regardless. So we'll
Let me get away with it.
Nobody wants to default to, you're
Thank you.
good to go on that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Very good. Well, thank you for showing that. We appreciate it. So you're down in the warm Floridas right now. Yeah. Okay, so we've got.
Yes,
Excuse me. What part of Florida are you in?
I'm in Delray.
Oh, we're coming to Miami for our youngest daughter's wedding on 27th of January.
By that time, it should be okay. It's been a little cool here now, and the rain was
Yeah.
terrible. So, but it's nice. I'm going back to New
Yeah.
York.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so next we're going to
congratulations
have
on the wedding.
Les on deck or excuse me, Les is up next. And how about if we have Greg Vass on deck?
Okay, Jack, I'll start with a compact, and of course, this is the bottom for it. The cover has the iris decoration, and the compact, I'm trying to think of if I've seen it in an opaque color other than ivory. I don't think so. But boy, with the iris decoration, of course, it really pops out. David showed a cigarette box with the Yale Bulldog. I've got the same larger cigarette box, but this one has the what we call, it's just a numbered decoration, the swayback Scotty. The thing that's unusual about this one is the color is green and white instead of the standard black and red. So just something that's a little bit different. Another cigarette box, a smaller size, also in crystal. And doesn't have the height or the width. But this one has the George Washington enamel decoration on it for the bicentennial of his birth. And the other thing about this, both the top and the bottom, if you can see right here, have that William Smith label on it. So Bill labeled all of his glass in his collection. So yeah, I got this from one of the auctions. And of course, the pieces that have those labels on, I've just kept them on because Bill and Phyllis were so special to NCC. There is one other cigarette box. It's similar in length and width, but it's a different in height. And that's this one in Pomona Green. It's a little bit taller, and the lid is a little bit different. It's cut in so that when it sits on, it actually goes into the top of the lid. So just different how they made the one in Pomona Green. Of course, some people continue to refer to this as avocado, because that's what we called it for an awful lot of years before we had confirmation on the actual name. Also, in that Pomona Green color, I've got the cigarette jar. And so it's not a humidor, it is a cigarette jar. And the bottom seems to be easier to find than the top. I suppose that the top could be more easily damaged, so those have sometimes disappeared. But for the opaques, this is kind of a nice piece of glass to have in a collection. I've only got two more things, Jack. One is a humidor. And of course, these humidors are double labeled. And if you go to the Miami Valley website, sometimes they're called cigarette jars and sometimes they're called humidors. It does have the moisturizer internal lid. There's a place there that you can put moisture, a little absorbent material in there. But this decoration is an etching that's in the just a numbered etching in the etching book. But it's got a very deep etch. So it's almost like an intaglio etching. It's a very deep etch, and then they put red enamel inside of it. So I like enamel, I like ebony, so it's special to me to have in my collection. And then the last thing, talking about interchangeable or lids that can work on different bottoms. This is the Moonlight Type 2 Swan. As far as we know, these Type 2 swans were made only in 1937. This pops up in a circular letter in Moonlight, and it's the only mention of a Moonlight swan. The Type 2 swan, we had a program earlier on swans. They're shaped just like the Type 1 swans, but they've removed the feather detail. But they did make them with a cover that fits right on top. But the swan is the same whether you have the cover on it or not. Very few of these have popped up. I ended up getting a pair of them that popped up on eBay out of Indiana many, many, many years ago. Now, another thing about this swan, we've talked about the Moonlight versus Willow Blue, and I'm not in agreement with some other people that are on this program as far as if there's really much of a distinction between them. If you look at this swan, it's really thick. It's got really thick, and it's got a lot of folds like Caprice. So it really looks deeper. Now the cover, which was obviously made at exactly the same time, I don't know if this shows, but I think by looking at this, most of it, oh, that's Willow Blue. It's much fainter. It's a much fainter blue. Well, obviously it was made in 1937, the same time as that swan, but it's very thin. So the thickness of the glass can really have an impact on the density of the color. And of course, the rose finial is also very thin. Now, another comment on these covered swans, two have popped up on the Type 1 swans. And those have more feather detail. This is some of the feather detail removed. Both of them have damage. One is the Cambridge Museum, and there was a chip on the side, so they cut out that chip and put in a spoon and made it into a mayonnaise. The other one is in a personal collection. It likewise has a chip, but those do not have the finial handle. So it must have been very hard if you've got a Type 1 swan shaped like this with a cover with no handle to take it off. So they could have been very, easily damaged. Both of those two are in light emerald, and I'm not aware of any others that have surfaced. As far as these with the rose finial, they're the only ones that are known and appeared in that circular letter from 1937 are in Moonlight and Crystal. So, and Jack, it might be a covered candy. I'm not sure. But again, it's not really what you would typically think of as a candy. But so I won't show this when you have your candy program. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. It may be a covered candy, but I still like to see those anytime. Those covered swans are so beautiful and just so rare. So, well, thank you very much for showing that. I had another question too for you too, but I should have written that down. So I'll think of it later. So, okay. So the next is going to be, how about if we have Greg Bass is going to be next, and then how about if we put Phil Eggers on deck?
Well, hello, everybody. I just want to start off with a couple of things I wanted to show, which is something I'm surprised we hadn't seen yet, which is the covered the rabbit with its cover on it. Available in many covers, and I think these are a pretty popular item to have. Everybody can see this, or okay. And I have a Moonlight Caprice mustard. It has the talked about pyramid. Oops, the little pyramid lid on it that fits. It had a spoon with it. I've always wondered if that was the spoon that they all came with. It sits up a little high, and you put it in there. I found all that together, so I assumed that maybe it came with it. And then I wanted to show this guy. We've seen one from the Finley collection, but I wanted to show this guy because he demanded to be seen once I got him down. Gold crystal turkey. I think they call it not a lid, but they call it a cover. I guess the terminology can be either one, lid or cover.
Cambridge actually used the term cover much more often than they did lids. We call them lids, but Cambridge really called them covers. So,
yeah. And then one of the items I really like in the collection is sort of a dangerous item. I call it dangerous, although it's a puff box, and you don't usually hear the word dangerous associated with puff box. But this is the, I guess, the 4.5-inch puff box in willow blue with apple blossom. But what's dangerous about it is the lid is on such a slant that it's a little dangerous every time you think about taking the lid off, because it's on there with such a slant. It's a pretty item.
And Greg, I think it's actually Moonlight. If you go by the catalog, I think it's actually Moonlight, but again, it's so extremely thin that it looks like willow.
Oh. I didn't know they kept making apple blossom when they were making Moonlight Blue. Were they still making apple blossom at that time?
Yep, they overlapped there in the 1930s.
And someone pointed out to me that the lid on the puff, that size puff box, would fit on champagne, a nude champagne, which it looks like it pretty much would, to create a forced marriage sweetmeat. It does fit. That's all I have, everyone. Thank you.
well, thank you, Greg. Appreciate you showing those pieces.
I have a question though, Jack.
Okay, go ahead.
For Greg, could I see that rabbit again in a little more detail? I found one. I didn't buy it because I'm not sure how you tell a Cambridge one from any other one that's out there.
Well, one significance is the bottom, the little feet on the bottom. That
Okay.
detail is really kind of cool.
What about the tail end?
And the little tail.
What does that measure?
I think this is the smaller. I think they came in two sizes. I think this is
Right.
like the 5-inch, and there's a 6-inch. Is that right?
And
Something
there are
like
two
that.
there are two versions too, right? There's one that has the fur detail and the little lip coming off the top, and which kept breaking off, and then they changed that to remove the little overhang lip on the front tooth or whatever that was. So somebody here can address that maybe a little better than I can, but
Yeah, this one does not
What-
have the fur detail.
What does it look like when you take the lid off it? Okay, I see what you mean. Yep. I think that's identical to the one I found. I might have to go pick that up.
Go for it.
Cool. Thanks for showing that.
Yeah.
okay, great. Thank you again, Greg. Okay, so okay, next we're gonna have Phil. And how about if we put Kenny on deck?
Hey, Jack.
Yes.
I don't think Phil's on tonight. He kind of smashed his hand and stuff, so he's on some pretty good pain meds and stuff, so he didn't think he could do this tonight.
Oh, okay.
So I
Okay.
don't believe he's on.
So he was on early.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. But I don't see, now that I'm looking, I do not see him on there now. So
Yeah, I don't think he is.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, maybe you're right. Okay, so how about Kenny, if you're ready, we'll do you now, and then we'll put Mary and Jeff on deck.
Okay. I pulled out something you showed. They're the little Yardley bottles. I have that one, and I have that one. So these, I guess Cambridge made these for Yardley. Another thing you showed in a different form was this set. Where's my camera? I may have to pick it up. Let's see. It's a night set. You showed it in, I forget, cut or something. And this is in green crackle. And and it comes on a tray like this. And I know the tray's right because I have more than one set of these. I brought out these two humidors. One at a time. This is the one with the dragon. And like Les showed, it's got the top and it's got the insert inside. And this is the larger of the two. And this is the same one, but it's smaller. It does the same thing. Right? But the difference on them is this. This one has that on. Get out of the way there. This one has that on the cover. And this one has a dragon on the cover. So I guess they made it both ways. Anybody know? Is that normal? Okay. We don't know. And the last thing
Kenny,
I have.
Kenny, is that medallion also the red enamel?
Yeah.
Wow, I'd never
That's
seen that
exactly
before.
Have you
Never
ever
seen it
that?
before in red enamel.
Yeah. Strange, right? But I mean, it's the right top. It fits all my humidors and everything.
That would suggest they made it with the medallion as well, if it's got red enamel.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I didn't realize it when I bought it, of course. And then the last thing I have is a temple jar in green with the dragon on it. So you can see a transparent one. The only thing I don't have with this is the green stand. So anybody got a green stand? And that's all I have.
Wow, that's awesome.
I got Les thinking. He's thinking about that medallion. I know he is.
I have a question, and I was thinking about this, and now this goes back to what Les was showing too with his jars that he had, because you call them cigarette jars, cigar jars, but aren't they really just for tobacco?
Yeah, I've
Like-
always called them humidors because
Yeah.
because of that insert inside to keep the tobacco. I guess the taller one might have been for cigars, though. I'm not really sure.
I don't know.
I guess
Les,
you
you
use
showed-
them as you needed them.
I agree with you, Jack. I think they are humidors, but Miami Valley has them interchangeable when they've got some of them listed as tobacco jars, but I think that Cambridge considered them humidors.
Okay.
Agree.
Yeah. 'Cause I think they just primarily kept tobacco in them, period, not rolled, or maybe cigars, I guess, but I doubt if they had cigarettes.
Well, in those days too, people rolled a lot of cigarettes too. So.
Right.
The microphone.
Okay, well, those are awesome. Okay, so thank you, Kenny. Next up is Mary and Jeff. And then our last one of the night, and then I have some photos that I'm going to show from people I will bring up to from Freeman and Jeannie will be Mike Strebler on deck. So Mary and Jeff, you're up.
Okay, well, the first one we'll show is the butter dish, and this is
Roger's old town.
near cut. I think it's 20, it was 25, I can't, I wrote it down, 2547 maybe, Dorothy. And the lid is marked near cut. And then a couple of these things you've already seen tonight, but this one is the little Weatherford syrup with the cover. A little finial. I don't know if you could, can you see me okay? I can't, I'm not seeing anything. Looks like
Yeah, we can see you just fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, this you've already seen tonight. You showed this, Jack, but this is one, a plain 3400 butter and cover and gold crystal. This one doesn't have any cutting on it. And the Martha Washington covered urn, which you showed earlier too. It looks so nice at Christmas time. I love having it out with the red glass. And then 3400, the cocktail shaker. And this one's got, of course, it's got the glass lid with the cutout for to pour your cocktails. And then I forgot it wasn't candy, so I gotten out some candy, so I had to scramble to find some other things. But this is so here's the smaller rabbit, was it 5.5 inch or 6 inch? And then this one is the 8. I think it's 8 or 8.5 inches. That was the first one we bought years ago. And then the last thing is just the lid. It goes on the green pitcher with it's got the little ribs on the bottom. I didn't look it up, but I bought the pitcher years ago and I thought someday I'll find the lid. Well, of course, the pitcher's been packed away for for years probably, and I just found the lid recently out shopping. So it goes to a pitcher and it's in the house somewhere. And that's it. Everything else, we have lots of candies, but that's all we got out for lids.
Okay, well, thank you. I can tell you that lid is not an easy lid to find. So you are lucky to be able to find that to go on that picture that you had. So.
It took a long time.
Mm-hmm. And you just found the lid by itself?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't remember where we were, but yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, great. Well, thank you very much. And last on our list is Mike Strebler.
Thank you, Jack. Kenny, I got a comment for you. You said you weren't sure if it's normal. I wanted to tell you it's not normal for anybody to have 2 of those red dragon jars like that. So to answer your question, it's not normal. All right, Lisa's got the first couple pieces for us here. Yep.
Well,
She's getting there.
Yeah. So. So I got this not too long ago, and,
Put it in front of you. There you
yeah,
go. All right.
and I was told that it was used for pancake batter. The lid completely covers the spout area. So that in order to pour you out of it, you'd have to remove the lid. I'm not sure what I've got here, but it's really pretty and really cool. So,
Any takers on what that is? No, okay.
okay,
I think it is a batter pitcher. I think I've seen them described that way.
yeah.
Thanks, Mary.
This is out of the pharmaceutical.
Back it up a little bit. Huh? There you go.
There we go. This lid is interesting in that it lines up and everything, but it doesn't have, it's completely flat and ground. It doesn't have like a lip that fits into the lower piece. And I think they call this maybe a desiccating jar. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or if I'm remembering that right, but I believe I saw it in the pharmaceutical.
Yeah, the name is something like that.
Something
I
like
can't
that.
remember it.
Yeah. That's pretty old stuff. Okay, you want to hold that for me?
This.
Yeah, this is so big, it takes both of
Well, I'll
us.
do the bottom and you can do the top.
Yeah.
There you go.
So,
You take the top.
okay,
There you
so this is referred to as a crushed fruit bowl. We saw somebody had something like this earlier. Maybe that was you, Jack. It has if you look inside the lip inside of it, it has slots where you could place spoons for service. And it's an old piece. I'm thinking it's part of the 2800 line, which is known as Community, but I may be wrong. But I love this piece and I keep it out all the time.
Anything else over there, Dave?
I got one more.
All right, one more time.
So things with lids and things without lids.
Yeah, it should have a lid.
It should have a lid. If you have a lid, Mary, you found a lid after so many years. Maybe you'll find a lid for her.
Yeah, let's find another one.
Find another one.
I've got another bottom just like that one that needs a lid.
Okay,
Yes,
well, that's
so-
And I've got a light emerald lid in it. So
Anyway, things with lids that don't have a lid. So yeah. All right, I'm done, dear, with my little.
okay. I rated the royal blue cabinet.
Oh, I'm gonna show Blue Willow thing too, but I'll do that later.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll get to that one. And so the first one is, I think this is called a marmalade. And it's got the slot in the lid. I actually see more marmalades like this than anything, although these are all tough to come by because this is such a fragile glass. I'm sure they all broke the snot out of these. Okay. And then this is roughly the same size, but there's no spoon hole. So, Jack, you said you'd help me. What do you think this is?
It's a sugar.
It's not a candy. Come on, don't
I
call
gotta
it
unmove. It's a puff box, I believe, isn't it?
it is a puff box, the smaller of the.
a small puff box.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with that.
Okay. And from that,
Mm.
okay,
Bowl in a china cloth.
we move to this guy, which I think we saw before.
It's the large.
And this is the large puff box. Hard to get the key. There we go. Now, I had to describe. It's also described in the literature as a candy box, but in order to avoid a foul, I claimed it as the puff box.
Actually, Mike, the candy box is bigger. They come in 3 sizes. That's 2 smaller are puff boxes, and the candy is bigger. It's got the same cover, but it's a bigger ball.
Ooh, less with the save, less with the save.
Well, but the thing about this one, though, Les, and that I've always heard that the puff box and candy box had the same lid, and the reason you if you could find the base, it probably doesn't have a cover because it fits on this. So that lid is a prime something that's really special to find that. And I actually got a lid. I bought this. This is a tally-ho bottom. No idea what it is. But when I bought it for the lid. And that's how it was sold, was just like this, the bottom and the lid together. I think that it had to have been sold like this by Cambridge Glass, because the thing fits perfectly, and I don't know why anybody would have taken a lid like that and put it on a tally-ho bottom like that. So sticking with tally-ho. This was one of the first pieces of tally-ho I bought just because I thought it was cool. And it is what were the names?
Pretzel jar?
It's a pretzel jar, but I think in the literature it doubles as a cookie jar. So either way, I qualify on that one, Jack.
It's not
But Mike, the bottom has got the darts, so that's 3,400 on the bottom.
It is, and if you look at the lid, Les,
Yeah, it's tally-ho.
it's tally-ho.
But was it advertised as tally-ho or was it advertised as 3,400?
It was a tally-ho piece.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Yeah.
But you're right, that is the 3,400 bottom. Okay. On the same lid, and I'm not cheating, I actually have 2 lids. The same lid as that pretzel jar, and I think David did this also, or somebody did. It doubles to turn the ice bucket into a cookie jar.
cracker jar.
Is it?
Cracker jar, I don't know.
I think
It can be either one. They labeled that when they first introduced that it was a cookie jar. 2 pages later in the catalog, it's a cracker jar. So
Okay.
yeah.
So let's see what else we got here. This is part of a night set, but most of them that I've seen tonight had a different handle. This has the lifesaver top, and there's a crystal tray and a blue tumbler that goes with this. But
David Ray, do you want to comment on those sets? Because we talked at auction time. Payton City made essentially an identical one, correct?
Yes, they did. It's very difficult to tell the difference. Payton City's colors do not match exactly with Cambridge, not all of them, but some of them are extremely close. And off the top of my head, I think the knob on top of the lidded pitcher is a little bit different for Payton City as well as Cambridge. There's a difference there, but boy, the tray is really close. The tumbler is pretty generic. Now, Mike, the one you're holding up is a little bit different. That's got the rings at the bottom of your picture. That's
Yes.
why it has the different lid. The picture that Jack had shown, and maybe a couple other people, the picture's smooth. So there's a couple different night sets out there, and the tumbler should match that picture with the same circles at the bottom.
It does, David. I have a couple of these sets.
Yeah, they're great.
Let's see what else we got over here. How about a big piece here? Yeah. So this is a 3400 jug. There's the darts on it. And it's got a lid. And the lid is got some kind of an acorn decoration on the finial, my wife tells me. It does have the darts, but it's almost like a tally-ho ring on top of it there. So again, the combination of 3400 and tally-ho. Okay. So this we've seen tonight in other colors. The Mount Vernon urn, covered urn, Martha Washington, I'm saying. And if I take the same lid and I put it on this, I create a fowl. Now it's a candy box, I believe. So I qualified it as an urn, but I did want to show you that the lid fits on the footed candy. This is a ring stem vase, and Lisa's going to stick and look how it fits over the outside of that thing. It doesn't fit on the inside like a normal lid on a Cambridge piece. It fits on the outside. And the lid itself is the same lid that you find on the 3400 candy box, 4-footed candy box that you see quite frequently. So usually when you see that 4-footed candy box in royal blue, somebody, either it's missing a lid or somebody bought it for what seems like a ridiculous price because they probably took the lid and used it for something like that.
Mike, that's also the same lid that I showed the lemon plate earlier. That's the lid that they use to make the lemon plate.
Okay. I'll get the turkey there, huh? So I thought on this one that we were really going to push the limits tonight, Jack, with lids, because I said, well, this has a lid, and so this is a royal blue turkey with a lid, and we've talked a lot about the turkey, so I won't spend any time on that. Oh, one more royal blue piece.
Position.
It's a covered vegetable, I believe, but it's different than Jack's. It's not round. It is a common tray. Why don't you pull the lid off on it? But it is a pretty standard bottom. There we go. And then the lid just matches the shape. And I don't know what you call this description of this handle, but I don't know, 3,500 maybe, who knows? And that's all for the royal blue collection. Lisa had one piece she's going to show, and then one of my favorite pieces.
Okie dokie, this is one of my favorites. This is from a night set. However, I do not have a tray. But this is the willow,
From the camera there.
the willow etch enamel with gold decorate and the blue enamel. And it's got the little knob. It's got the gold decorate on the lid too, and at the foot. Really special. I love the blue willow. You want me to hold this up too?
No, not yet. So on that picture she had, is provenance the right word, Les? When you have some kind of history on something?
You got it.
Okay. The provenance on that picture is that a worker made this for his granddaughter. And with it, we have, I think, 6 small tumblers that I've not seen anywhere else in willow etch, and that are matched with the blue enamel filled willow etch and the gold trim that match that. So that's the provenance that a worker supposedly created that for his granddaughter. And then the final item we have, and I have no idea what this is, but one of my favorite pieces of all time, and I probably showed it before because I show it every chance I get. And this is a Vichy gold fill. The bottom's gold, and then there's a top to it. And that's how it qualifies tonight. It has a lid. And I don't know what the piece is. I think it's a late piece, but I'm not really sure. Now, an interesting thing is one of these came up on eBay maybe 6 months ago, maybe 9, I don't know. But the edge, the rim on this one does not have any gold on, where the one on eBay had no lid, but it had gold trim. So I don't know whether it was intended that way or not. There is one of these that I know exists in the museum, and it has a lid, but it does not have the gold on the edge.
Yeah, Mike, and they're not cataloged. There's no catalog mention of them at all. And then hold up that lid, if you wouldn't mind. So Lynn says it's the same as the 3400 urn vase that we've talked about after the major change, but actually that lid has panels down the side. So it's a unique cover as well for that piece, but it's not cataloged. There's no reference to it in any Cambridge materials, but it's certainly Cambridge.
Yeah.
Is the lid the Georgian tumbler lid? Georgian tumbler candy lid?
No, that's also got the panels on it.
It does? Okay.
It does have some little flowers going, or leaves going down 4 sides. So
awesome, wonderful.
So that's it, Jack. That's what we rounded up tonight.
That's really neat. Thanks. And I was really marveling at that willow jug with the gold on it too. That's really special. That's really neat. I don't remember seeing that before in your collection. I don't know where that's been hiding, but
well, we didn't know it was any good, so we just stuck it in a box, Jack.
Yeah, you're down there all the time. Yeah, it's down here. I'll show you next time you
Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was really nice. Okay. Before I have some photos that is Jeannie on here still? Yes, okay. That she can do. But before we get to those, does anybody else have any glass to show that I haven't covered yet that I didn't know? Okay.
I have just a comment.
Oh, yes.
On the humidors. We're not in Connecticut right now, so I don't have my golf scene humidors to share. But the lid on both sides have that medallion that Kenny had on the one, but obviously not in red, because they're gold encrusted. So that's just a comment.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Okay, Jeannie, Freeman, are you ready? Are you there? Well, maybe they aren't. So I will go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm here, Jack.
Okay. Do you want to, I'm going to bring up and I'm going to share screen again. And then do you want to then comment on the pictures and again as I go through them?
Jack, she said she had one piece to show.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Les.
Okay. I have one piece. I don't see myself on there. Here's the bottom. It's a butter dish and it is a 2500, Jack. Can you see it all right?
Yeah, hold it in front of you maybe because of your background. There you go.
This is the bottom. And I just love the top. I love the top better than I do the bottom.
But keep it in front of you.
I am.
Turn it.
We're learning. It's almost like a bell.
It's a butter dish.
It's a butter dish. Okay, Jack. But I love this.
Okay. And kudos, you get big points for the number on that too. I know that was
Freeman
hard
wrote
for
it
you.
down.
Okay, let me share screen and let's see here now. Oh, here we go. Okay, and there we go.
Go ahead, Freeman.
Well, I labeled each of these because I knew I had a conflicting meeting. So Jeannie wanted to have information. So this is the 930 sugar, which, we have an amber set with an amber lid, but in the Ormolude, it's a nice ink set. Okay. Not knowing what other Mount Vernon was shown, but here's the butter dish and the number 15 toilet box with the acorn on the finial. The green, because it's Christmas time, so I had to use the green Mount Vernon. Because it's Jeannie, we had to get a ball jug, but a ball jug with a lid? Yeah, a cocktail shaker.
And of course, Lisa, that's your Porsche.
And once I took the picture, I realized, oops, I didn't have the shaker part pushed on there correctly, but hey, that's okay. And then the square toilet box, I find that extremely difficult to find. It's just an unusual being square. And then I've got the mustard next to it, for size purposes. Okay. And Jack has seen this in person, the near cut daisy 9.5-inch bowl, and then the mustard's next to it. I didn't weigh it, but I would guess that the large daisy bowl with cover is 3, maybe 4 pounds. It's a heavy piece with the lid on it. And this is definitely a cracker jar. This just happens to be the star pattern. Some people call it the Bethlehem star, but it's the number 2656 star. And sometimes you'll find the star pieces with a ruby flashing on it. So got the cracker jar with the lid. And the star is also on the lid as well. And then swans do come with lids. They're hard to find, but there's the swan with a lid, crystal swan. think that might, whoops, one more. And Jeannie just recently got this past summer, mustard, footed mustard. It's hard to photograph, but it's etched Valencia around it as well as on the lid. It's Valencia.
Thank you, David, for having it.
That's the last one, I think.
Okay.
I don't know that I've ever seen that mustard before. That's really a cool piece. That's really
It's
neat.
the same size, it's the 4.5-ounce mustard, just like the Mount Vernon mustard is, just like the Caprice mustard, but it's on a foot. So it makes it even more neat. Thank you.
I want to go back one good question. That knob almost looks very similar to the knob that Mike was showing on the jug, but it's a different one. They just modify because his is a little, he calls it an acorn thing, but it looks like it's the same shape. They just put a little Mount Vernon thing on it. So not the same though, huh? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Freeman and Jeannie, for showing that.
My drink.
We appreciate that. Those are some neat pieces, and I have seen that near cut daisy, the covered bowl is really something. That's the only one of those I've ever seen, and it is a chunk of glass. That's a pretty cool piece. So, does anybody else have anything? Okay, well, we thank everybody so much for participating and being on tonight. This was really nice. We saw a lot of things. Again, we didn't see a lot of people having the same things because it's such a big category. We saw a lot of different stuff. So that was really nice. So before we wrap this up, I'm going to turn it over to David, and he can put in some final comments to us. David?
All right. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. And of course, mostly I appreciate all the people who have joined us every month. We really have a nice core group of people who join the Zoom and Tell programs, and it's really fun to see each of your faces each month, even the months that I'm not here. We do record these programs, so Freeman sends me a link and I'm able to watch and see all the pretties that people share at all the Zoom and Tell programs. This is it for 2023, but Zoom and Tell continues into 2024. We're working on programming right now, but we do have programming for January and February. It'll be January the 9th. We're going to try to focus on the second Tuesday of every month, but we will have to make a little adjustment possibly in May, but I'll tell you more about that later. But January 9th, we're going to do our favorite purchases from 2023. So if you didn't purchase anything that you want to share in 2023, well, you can pretend that one of your prior purchases were made in 2023, and you can share that with us. So it'll be fun to see. It's really more like a show and tell of 2023 to see what we've got. And in February, on February the 13th, that's the evening before Valentine's Day, Jonathan Furman is going to lead a program on comports. He collects comports from various companies, and he's going to lead that program in February. So I'd be looking forward to seeing everyone. And of course, want to wish everyone a happy holidays and safe travels if you're going somewhere. And I guess we'll see you in the new year. Thanks, Jack.
Okay, well, thank you, David. And again, thank you, everybody, and wish everybody a safe and happy holidays. And we'll see you in January.